Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff and our second of three first impressions videos that are connected to the 80th anniversary of the Bismarck chase season of videos that we're doing on the channel. So everyone's aware that the Prince of Wales was the support ship with the hood at the Battle of the Denmark Strait, and but not everyone realises that after the hood had sunk, exactly what went on. In fact, the battle continued for another quarter of an hour or so, and the Prince of Wales also fatally hit the Bismarck, putting a hole in her hull, which meant seawater contaminated some of her fuel oil, which shortened Bismarck's range. But also it affected Bismarck's trim. They had to flood to balance a list, which meant she was then a bit heavier in the bow. So not only had she been slowed down, but she'd suffered some damage that needed repair. So what Prince of Wales actually did was, one way or another, no matter what the outcome was going to be with Bismarck, whether we caught up with her or not, whether the Royal Navy caught up with her or not, the planned operation really was finished the moment the Prince of Wales put that 14-inch shell through her hull. Unfortunately for the Prince of Wales, and she'd set to sea still with civilians on, working on her main guns, as she wasn't fully worked up. And because the guns weren't fully worked up, during that quarter of an hour or so of sea battle, they did have intermittent problems with keeping the guns firing. And ultimately, it was these issues with the guns that made Prince of Wales disengage after a quarter of an hour. Lucky that they did, because I think had the guns not been given as much issue, I have no doubt in my mind that eventually Bismarck and Prince Eugen would have finished the Prince of Wales off between them. They had that ability. Interestingly, talking to my grandfather, the Prince of Wales had actually taken quite a beating. So my grandfather recalls that the Prince of Wales, when they escorted her back to Iceland, was very low in the water. A shell had passed through the upper structure and the bridge was a mess. The compass platform had been destroyed, the air defence platform had been destroyed, and the radar office had been severely damaged. And of course, that had the shrapnel from that damage had caused further residual damage. And as my great uncle, who was on the King George V at the time, would testify, going into action, even if you don't take any hits, the percussion of your own guns can cause damage on board ship, trunking bursts and splits and that type of thing. So she was in a bit of a state when she disengaged, and I think a lot of people don't realise how badly she'd been given a bit of a pummeling. We talk about the number of hits she'd received, but there was also a number of close hits, and even close hits will cause some form of percussion damage. Anyhow, she did get repaired, and she would take Churchill on a sea voyage before heading off to the Mediterranean and then the Pacific, where she ultimately met her fate and sank. Let's have a look at what's in the box. Flyhawks 1/700 scale, Prince of Wales. So this is the deluxe edition of this model kit, which is described as HMS Prince of Wales 1941.5. Not quite sure what that means, but it then goes on to say Battle of the Denmark Strait. So pretty much as she was built and commissioned, because the Prince of Wales was still undergoing sea trials when she went into battle with the Bismarck, and we have a nice artist's rendition of that battle there, with the hood exploding in the background. The positions are factually incorrect, but we will ignore that. And we've got some gun splashes there from Bismarck or Prince Eugen. So yeah, quite a nice dramatic little picture there. And then also on the front we have something here. This, I'm guessing, is the model number FH1153S. Says it's 1/700th scale, deluxe edition, and it's got a little emblem there that says the Age of Battlefleet series, and then there's a little box that says bonus, and it shows you what you get that makes this the deluxe edition compared to their standard edition. So let's have a look on the sides. You get basically the same information on both sides, which is what's already on the front. Then on this side here, again the same information, and you've got some little scan things. I've not scanned them, so I don't know what that takes you to. And then we've got a couple of pictures of other ships in the German, Königsberg and Bismarck. So, let's have a look in the box. So the box is absolutely rammed full of goodies, and we'll go through them with a little bit of care. The first couple of things out of the box, though, actually, firstly is a giant sort of postcard with the front cover artwork on, and then on the back of it there is a little bit of the story and some general dimensions in 3 different languages. And you get this tin, which, if we open it up, contains a badge and a couple of screws. So you've got something that you can put on a display plaque. Although, as you will see, it's absolutely huge in comparison to the actual ship. However, it is a very nice idea. I do have a 1350, the Tamiya Prince of Wales, and that might be better suited to that scale. Those are the first bits out of the box. The next thing out of the box is some confusion, basically. You get a set of instructions, then you get another set of instructions, then you get another set of instructions. So these instructions, I think, relate to the resin. We'll have a proper look in a minute. And then we've got instructions that relate to photo etch, and then we've got instructions that relate to the plastic kit. We'll have a look at all of that in a moment. Then we have a little plastic box, and inside there is resin and turned brass parts. Then we have a couple of packets which have our etch in it, and a separate little bag with our decals in it, and we'll have a closer look at those in a minute. Then, nicely wrapped in some foam, we have the 4 parts that are going to make up the hull and deck. And again, we'll have a closer look at those in a minute. We're getting to my point though, don't bear with me. And the point is, the rest of the box is plastic. Tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of it. Just a reminder, this is 1/700 scale. This is a very, very, very high part count kit for its scale. But let's have a look at the instructions. Now, first thing to say is, they are portrait and small. So we start at the very top with our parts count. So you've got all the sprues laid out here for the plastic parts. Then you've got our read before assembly section. Then we've got the icon instructions. It's all fairly standard stuff. And then we start, and the steps are numbered. We start with the build of the hull, and then we're drilling some holes after we've built the hull together, or as part of building the hull together. Then we're building sub-assemblies. So we've got main guns. So it looks like 3 steps, but it's all part of step 2. So step 2, you've got building up the sort of the turrets. Then you've got adding bits to. I see. I'm already confused. You've got the turrets, or you seem to have bits that we then add to the turrets that you've already added to the turrets, and then below that in step 2, you've got the second another turret. So it's dealing with all the turrets that are slightly different. 1, 2, and 3, maybe 3 different turrets, all in the same set. I'm already a little bit confused. Then we've got step 3 here, which is all of this. And we've got colour codes that weren't explained at the start, so I don't really know what the colours are. And lots of tiny parts. Yeah, there's nothing on here that says, oh yeah, you get to step 5 and it tells you what the colours are. Okay, I'm not even sure that's right. They seem to use colours, but there's no explanation of what the colours are for. Okay. Then you've got the stages there of it being built up, and you've got the sub-assemblies shown. And then you have these little hands which are telling you where to put it. Gosh. These are some of the most complex, unthought through instructions I've ever seen. So X22, I'm guessing that's a part. That says symmetrical on both sides, so I'm guessing we're making 2 of those. Wow, anyway. You get the idea, it's complicated. Step 4 is all of this, which has basically building up that funnel section there. Then this says 4 and 5. So these are sub-assemblies, but they're not numbered as a count. Crane, more guns, ships, boats. Second funnel, we've got 4 main masts there. Then in step 5, we've got the foredeck area. There's a question mark on something. Remove it if you like, or something like that. I don't know. You've got the positions of things and basically what they are. So we've got a colour code here that actually has a key and does make sense. But the rest of the time, you've got no idea what these colours really mean. Then you're positioning all of these items, booms, guns, ships, boats, and so on. You then have a picture here with ships, boats. Again, they've colour-coded them, but they weren't colour-coded when we built them, so not quite sure why they've done that. Then step 7, so that's step 7, which includes putting the funnel and the cranes on. Step 8 seems to be putting ladders in. Then you've got the forward superstructure and the forward funnel structure, race funnel structure and main gun. Then we've got the stern deck. So 10 steps on that first page, first 2 pages. Then page 3. You're putting some, that
That makes no sense either. So we've assembled the guns, put them on the barbettes, and then we're adding detail to the barbettes, the life rafts and stuff. There's just no sense to the flow of the instructions of this. You're then putting stuff on the deck, but you've put the superstructure on. I mean, this thing's that long, it just makes no sense. Anyway, so all sorts of floats and rafts and bits and pieces going on at the end. And so that's 15 steps. We then go to the colour shout out. So 15 steps and you've completed the build. Bonkers. So we've got the colours in English, 2 different languages, Mr. Hobby, Tamiya and White Ensign Models colour coats. Which is interesting because they're not White Ensign Models colour coats anymore. I think the Starling Models now who bought the rights to those. I think that's right. Yeah, so you've got the shades and you've got the descriptions and you can cross-reference them. They have given you the Tamiya colours, but light grey is XF2, XF57 and XF66 mixed 1011. For example, well, I certainly wouldn't bother doing that. And then you've got the colour shout-outs, which look very, very dark to me. But anyway, and then if we flip over to page 4, we've got some more building, which is for the Walrus, either fixed wing or folded wing, and the paint shout-outs for that. And then below that we have some promotion for aftermarket and then some more 1700 ships just in case that wasn't enough for you. Okay, that's the main plastic kit instructions that you'd get if you were just buying the ordinary version. And just in case those instructions weren't complicated enough, we then have a separate set of instructions for the resin that's included in the kit. That appears to be all deck level stuff. So, what it's basically telling you is you need to remove these plastic parts. So, one has a big remove symbol and it's showing you in relief here some of the items to remove. So, you're removing them so you can then put resin parts in instead. So to give you an idea, you've got a plastic rectangular box that you're going to remove and then replace it with a resin ventilator that's going to look considerably more realistic than that. Or you could just leave that on and not bother losing your sanity trying to put those on. We'll show you those parts in a minute and then you'll understand what I mean. So first step is remove all the plastic. Second step is to replace it all with resin. And the little arrows are telling you which way the vent points. So I think arrows indicate the outlet of the vent. So yeah. And then if we flip over the side, we've got more joy with more vents. So basically your resin's all your vents. So that's the resin instructions done. And just in case you've got some sanity left, they then give you some instructions for the etch. Oh, I forgot to mention. The resin instructions of the kit, step 1 and step 2, and then as you go over to the other side of the page, you've got step 1 and step 2 again. Yeah. Okay, then photo etch shows you the 3 sheets of photo etch. It gives you a vague idea of how to bend them and then gives you a picture of what it should be. So we're starting with the cranes. These steps aren't numbered, but I know we're on page 1, so that must be the first step as it's at the top. Then it's showing you roughly how to fold it what you're replacing and where it goes. So and it's telling you how many to make. So I'm hoping that's not right, times 70. Or maybe that becomes a number, a location number. I don't know. Maybe it's not telling you how many to make. Anyway, I'll have to study it more carefully when I've had a drink, maybe, and I don't drink. So as we flip over to the other side, we've got additional stuff on the masts, incline ladders, which we'd expect at this scale. There's all sorts of bits and pieces for the walrus. I'm going to leave this out, so when we get the plastic walrus parts out, we can have a look at how realistic that is. And then this is railing locations at the bottom. So there's lots of different colours, and it shows you where those should go. So they're all pre-cut railings. Right, let's have a look at the parts. So this is the above waterline section of hull, and it's really, really nice. We've got panel lines sort of shown running the length of the ship. We've got all the scuttles with their little eyebrow drains on. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Ship's shape looks to be correct. You've got the stern coming in there, which is nice. And that sits on top of this hull section, like so. Bearing in mind I've not cleaned up any of these parts, would appear to fit beautifully. So the armoured belt, I mean there's virtually no join when you put them together. So this is the below hull section. Needs a little bit of clean up. You can see it's slide moulded, there's slide moulding seams, but the shape seems to be bob on, except the real ship didn't have sink in the bow. Quite a heavy line on the stern there, but just some gentle clean up. If you want to build it waterline, they do supply you with a waterline option as well. So like so. And I think there is a weight in there as well. And then we come to the deck. So if I just move those out of the way. And the deck is a thing of beauty. 1/700 scale. Look at that. That is absolutely beautiful. You've got the decks have all the butt joints, and they look really nice. The deck's not joggled, but you've got the butt joints. You've got really nicely rendered catapults. You've got lots and lots of detail there. It's busy, and it looks like the real thing as a result. That is nice. Now, as plastic goes, that's as good as it gets. And I'll be honest, as a model builder, I would be very happy with that. I don't see the need for all the resin. And for the sakes of my sanity, we might just not bother. But I'll show you them, see what you think. There you go. That is a beautiful deck. And we'll just have a quick look. Again, I haven't done any cleanup on these parts, but I can tell you now we're going to have no fit issues with that. Right then, let's look at the plastic. So these would appear to be searchlights, and they are absolutely tiny. Can you see them? It wouldn't surprise me if you couldn't. Then we've got light machine guns. And these little sprues have been designed to stack, which I think is a really nice feature. Pyrovanes. And literally nip them off, glue them on quick before you lose them. That looks like binoculars and that type of thing. I mean, give you an idea of how small these are. There's the tip of a cocktail stick. Let's just stack that on there. Then we've got bits that are so small that I couldn't actually tell you what they are. Slide moulded secondary armament has the doors there at the back, has lots of detail on all the surfaces, and they are absolutely beautiful. They're better detail than most 1350 kits. Then we have main search lamps. There's the hangers. The hangers have internal wall detail. Got the vents. Splinter shields are nicely done with all the ribbed supports on the inside. Watertight doors. I mean, it's proper beautiful. No two ways about it. There's your hanger doors, shutter doors, and superstructure slab sides. A little bit of ejector pin flash there to remove. More secondary armament. Anti-aircraft guns, the pom-poms. More of those bits that are so small we don't know what they are. So gun bases and barbettes and the actual guns with a little bit of superstructure parts. And yes, they have rifled out the holes. Well, they might not be rifled, but the holes are there. Slime moulded single piece funnels, which are absolutely stunning, as are the funnel caps. Very delicate, very nicely done. Lots and lots of texture on there. We have more superstructure. Boat deck, position for the funnel. They know the limitations of what they're moulding, so they've left some slab sides available to allow you to get better moulding, and therefore all your scuttles will be accurate and not mismoulded. Got all the little ships derricks there. I mean, proper nice that. Nice parts. Okay, so we've got derricks and booms, ships, boats, propellers, rafts, davits, cranes. I mean, look how intricate those cranes are. You don't need etch. They're beautiful. Really, really nice. And I think that is the same again. So we have 2 of those, although this one is missing whatever they are, hatch covers. Then we've got smaller superstructure bits. All very nicely done. We've got separate splinter shields and more armament there. Walrus seaplane. That's the floats. That's the propeller. That's your tail. Wings folded or not folded. And yet they want us to add loads of photo etch to that. I can't hardly see it. Put photo etch on it. Gotta be mad. I think that will build up lovely without any photo etch. Thank you very much. Rangefinder. More superstructure parts. All the watertight doors on it, the support brackets. I mean, they might be slightly oversized, but they look to scale, and that's the main thing. And we've got looks like ready use ammunition lockers. More pom-poms. Where did I put the pom-poms? There we go. Crane bases. Again, slide moulded. I mean, you'd struggle to get detail that good on a 3D printed part, I'll be honest. I've seen 3D printed parts look a lot worse than that. That is beautiful. That is the toolmaker's art at its best. Let's just say more parts. Another rangefinder. Main armament turrets. I mean, I can feel the rivets. Absolutely beautiful. Slide moulded. More superstructure. Tiny, but got all the doors on it. Clearly there's a platform to be added. Searchlight platforms. Lots and lots of detail. Lots and lots of tiny parts. Ship's boats. Look at the detail on those. Beautiful. Not quite sure what they are. They look like some form of gun tub. More superstructure parts. All the scuttles have got eyebrows on. There's detail on the watertight doors. I mean, the watertight doors must be 2.5 millimeters high by 0.5 millimeter wide, and they've got all the locking hinges on. Bit more superstructure, gun mounts. More superstructure, more gun mounts. Very, very beautifully thin gun barrels there, and gun bases. Got another one of those. More ship's boats. Just look at the detail inside the boats. You've got the ribs, and they look absolutely splendid. Under paint and a bit of a wash, they will sing. There's our weight, and this is the last sprue, which has the masts, rudder, the breakwater, another ship's boats, some more tiny details, radars and bits and pieces. The mast is deformed by the looks of it. I don't know if you can see that. It's got a big dent in it, and it looks to me like the breakwater is slightly deformed as well. Nothing we can't sort as we glue it down. There we have it. I mean, even the starfish looks splendid. I mean, simplified but splendid. So just the basic plastic kit, I can tell you now there's more parts to that than there is the Tamiya 1350 Prince of Wales. Probably by quite a margin. I've looked extensively around the box and I cannot see a part count for this anywhere, which is a real shame, because I think for those people that like to have a silly number of parts, would absolutely love this, because it's probably 4 figures if you include the etch. Talking of which, let's have a look at the etch. So this is a relatively small amount of etch. I'm guessing the accuracy of the plastic, with a lot of it being slide moulded, meant that they could reduce this, but who knows. So we have a crane, and I have to say that crane is going to look gorgeous. If you can fold that, it should look really nice. Then we've got all sorts of replacement parts. A lot of it is rails, some of it is range finding. We've got replacement davits. Yeah, most of that I'd say is fairly standard stuff. We've got a new spotting platform with the railing actually already on it. I don't like it when they do that. It's harder to form the railing, but I mean, it's doable obviously, but it just makes it a bit more difficult in my view. Then the other two. So again, mainly railings. We've got anchor chain. Got some parts there for the support structures for around the walrus, propeller. There was only one walrus included in the kit, I noticed. And then we've got the inclined ladders and jackstaffs. So fairly basic. I probably wouldn't bother with the walrus stuff myself. Okay, resin parts next. So the resin parts and turned gun barrels are all in this box. And they've all come individually bagged. Ziploc bags. Barrels. Main gun barrels. Very nice to have. We'll use those definitely. They look very nice. Drilled out ends. Lovely. Secondary gun barrels. Probably use those. Save me some cleanup time. Very nice. Those, all of them fit on the end of my finger. Look like brass mushroom vents. Not likely to use those. Then we have some resin mushroom vents, rectangular ones. Not likely to use those. The connection point of the resin is bigger than the actual part. Not likely to use those. More vents. More vents. Look, they're all on the end of my finger. There's 2 vents there. They're not the triangular bit, they're the bit sticking off the end. Couple more vents there. Won't be using them. Some smaller vents there, just because those ones weren't challenging enough. More brass mushroom vents. More brass mushroom vents. They're in different bags because they're different parts, even though they're the same size and all look the same because they're so small. And then we have mushroom vents that must be about 0.2 of a millimetre wide. Okay. There you go. Those are the additional resin and brass parts. And of the 2 piles, this 2 bags is what I'm likely to use. I can't see them, so I ain't going to paint them and glue them on. But that's our resin anyway. So put them back in the box. And then lastly, and definitely not least, we have our flags and markings. Cartograph, very nicely done too. Not really much in the way of options there, but anyone who has been following my videos know that I have a real beef with decals with ships. They really don't bother, and it really annoys me because there's no depth markings there. There is no other flag options, no signal flags. Yeah, could do better with the deck. Okay, first impressions. The plastic kit is absolutely phenomenal. It is beautiful. It looks like it will fit together very well. The bits we test fitted look like they've just clicked into place. The level of detail they've achieved is outstanding, and it really reflects the toolmaker's art, and Flyhawk have absolutely done the Prince of Wales proud. It's absolutely beautiful. When we come to the photo etch, replacing the crane, putting on the all the railings, lovely. I would expect nothing less. It will make such a difference to the ship, and although fiddly, it's a sort of an expectation that you get those. And the same with things like inclined ladders, and I may even have argued putting in the watertight doors would have made a difference as well. Replacing the davits, yeah, great. When you get to the bits for the walrus, that becomes personal preference. Some people would love to do that. It is doable. Others think, right, that's a step too far. That's sort of my line, really. So most of that photo etch, in fairness, I will probably use. There's some bits and pieces that I might not, but most of it I probably will use, and accept that some of the plastic parts might be slightly overscale as a result of not using some of the etch, but most of it will get done. Brass barrels, brilliant, lovely to have. Often you'd replace them anyway. I've got to say, 50-50 on whether you actually need them. The plastic ones in the kit being slide moulded are absolutely beautiful. Minimum clean up, very quick job just to whip the seam off. You probably don't need them, but they are nice to have. So yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. When we get to resin vents, then I think we've gone into the realms of silliness. I don't get it. They're so small that you can't see them. They're so small that you won't be able to tell that that's a mushroom vent. Anyway, so what they've moulded on the deck for me is good enough, and all of that I won't bother with because it's just too small. The same with these brass bits here. I won't bother with them because as soon as I put them in my tweezers, they're going to flick off and they'll never be seen again anyway. So I'm not going to bother myself with trying to find a way of taking them off their connection points and painting them and gluing them on. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to do it. I'm not even going to try. So already I'm feeling better about this kit just by going, yep, I'm not going to do it. It's a bit disappointing that we've got a damaged mask, and maybe if they're doing what Trumpet had done and wrap it in a little bit of foam to protect it, that might have helped. I don't know. I will end up having to replace those with a bit of brass rod, which means a lot of faffing about, but it's not a big deal. It's doable. You will end up with a very stunning little kit, really stunning little kit. So yeah, this is a ship that's close to my heart. It's one of my labour of love build lists, although my labour of love build will not be at 1/700 scale. I'm not sure when I'm going to build this, but it's going to be sooner rather than later because the eyes are getting older and that's getting harder to build. So we will do it in the next 12, 24 months, I would guess. All right, thank you very much for looking in. I hope that was helpful. If you've not bought a Flyhawks kit, plastic kit, absolutely go for it. If they've got something that you fancy, don't be scared to delve into it. I always say that photo etch is optional, so just go for it and build the bits that you want to build, and you can make a very nice kit just from the plastic. Okay, take care everyone. Hope to see you all soon.